Hey Myles, how's it going? It is Thursday, so that means it is live fire day, and we're going to continue where we left off on Monday, and we're going to talk about how to hold your pistol with your firing hand properly. So if you're interested, stay tuned. So on Monday, we talked about two principles that are going to help you have a good firing hand grip. And we talked about a little bit of the pressure that you should be applying, specifically C-clamp. Now we're going to work on things live fire and add some details that you can't really practice dry fire. And those who watched Monday's dry fire session, hopefully you watched this entire video because there's going to be some details discussed during this live fire session that we just can't really mimic or talk about productively without shooting some rounds. All right, so I have a target down range. It doesn't really matter the distance. We're going to be hyper-focusing on what's happening here. Yes, we want accuracy to be great, but you guys are learning a new skill set, so let's focus on our firing hand here. I'm going to load and make ready so I can talk about what we're going to be doing here as I do it. Okay. We talked about having good leverage over the gun, so that means high on the beaver tail. We already know that. We talked about having as much contact with the gun to have good friction, and then we talked about C-clamp pressure with our firing hand. What I want you guys to do is you're going to be taking single hand shots here, okay? There's a lot of details when it comes to even shooting with one arm, but we're just focusing on this, okay? So don't be too worried about other details you may have seen in other videos or under the structures, because we're just focusing on this right now, okay? So what I want you to do for the very first thing here is you're going to take single shots, whether you are, using a red dot or a iron sight. You still want to be accurate here, but I don't want you to focus so much on the target. Focus here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take shots, and you want to pay attention to whether the gun jumps in your hand, but specifically this spot here, okay, the back strap. What I mean by that is if you're too low, there'll be a lot of room. This gun will jump a lot more. Now, don't confuse this. Do not confuse this with the gun jumping because of your wrist, okay? Notice, if my wrist goes up, the back strap is still connected, follows. What I want you to pay attention to is whether or not it does this. So there's space here, okay? So you're gonna take a couple shots here. So I'm gonna take one shot right now, then another shot. And I'm paying attention. Not at one point do I see the gun jump in my hands this way in terms of there being space between the beaver tail and the web of my hand. So if you'll do that until you feel very comfortable, okay, in terms of having good leverage over the gun. Once you're comfortable, then you can move on. Now, how do you know if you're comfortable with it? The feel, and if you definitely do not see this jumping in your hand or the beaver tail leaving the web of your hand, let's say a dozen or so reps, then you can move on. Now you want to have good friction over the gun and work on that grip pressure, okay, C-clamp. What we're specifically looking for here is this. Without diving into the weeds, what I want you to do is I want you to have enough pressure and contact with the gun so that when you take a shot, the gun does not move within your hand. Similar to, I was talking about the beaver tail, but now you will see the movement here, okay? Notice, I'm going to have a very loose grip, and I want you to see the movement of the gun relative to my fingers. You're going to see that I'm going to lose contact at some point, okay? Notice this, I'm going to hold it really light, and I don't want you to do this at home. Okay, notice, my pinky literally came off it, okay? And if you watch slow-mo, unfortunately, actually, it's on the right side. On the right side here, it was slipping like this. I could feel the inside of my hand slip along the side of the grip. We don't want that, okay? I'm going to explain this kind of like in the air here. What's happening is if I don't have a tight grip, I just want you to see the motion. If I don't have a good friction, the gun is going to move up and down because of muzzle rise without my hand moving as well. That means the gun is moving within my hand, okay? So I want enough pressure so that it's one unit here. When I take a shot, my entire hand moves and arm, rather than, I'm going to loosen up here. So if you watch slow-mo there, that last shot, my finger touches the trigger guard when I start, and it went up. so I lost contact with the gun. So what you want to do is have good positive contact and friction the whole time, all of your reps. If you don't have a training partner to make sure that your gun and your hand and your arm are moving as one unit, then use a video camera. Okay, the video camera, put on slow-mo and see if there's any movement. Now, if there is movement within your hand, that means you need to apply more grip pressure. Okay, front and back grip pressure. So that's what you would do here, and that's the detail that we can't really talk about in dry fire. We want enough pressure so that the gun does not jump, and we have one unit. That is going to set you up for success as we move down the road and add our support hand. I don't want you to have a death grip though. We'll talk about this more, but just kind of give you a heads up. The more you grip your gun, the chances are higher that you may shank the shot, and also you might have trigger freeze. You might not be able to move your trigger finger quickly, and it might freeze up. We'll dive into trigger freeze more later, and for those of you who are interested, you can even Google that. But the whole idea is, some people, when they grip too hard, they can't move their trigger finger quickly. So you want to find just enough pressure that the gun does not flip or move in your hand, but at the same time, you can move your trigger finger with ease. Okay? So for the live fire session, the first part, talking about leverage, is just ensuring that you're nice and high and taking shots and make sure that it doesn't move off the weapon of your hand. Then the second point, friction, have good contact, focus on the forward and back pressure, and see if that gun jumps in your hand. Now, we're not diving into a lot of the muzzle rise talk just yet because we're going to combine that with the support hand later on. But what we're doing right now, having that C-clamp pressure, is going to help us when we start really honing in on dealing with muzzle rise. That wraps up today's live fire session. That first part where we're dealing with leverage, it should be relatively simple. The second part is where you'll need a partner, or you need to really be very, very strict on yourself. Notice that gun is jumping. Use a video camera if you need to, and this is where you're going to play with your grip pressure. So give it some time, and do this until you feel very comfortable, confident, and you're consistent. How many rounds is that going to take? I don't really know. That's going to be based on your own skill level and how much work you put in. But I also want you to remember that pressure. Once you find good pressure where the gun is not hopping around your hand, remember that pressure. And that's the pressure you're going to always apply during dry fire. Okay, that's extremely important. You need to use exactly the same pressure during dry fire that you do with live fire. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you have any questions below in the comment section. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. See you guys next week.